Welcome to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast. I'm your host, Mike, creator of Magus Media Productions. This podcast and others, along with me on this wild ride, is my good friend Andrew. I'm stopping in at the beginning of this show just to let you know that seasons 1 and 5 were initially recorded a few years ago with worse equipment. We were just getting started out, so there is a slight dip in quality the first few episodes of seasons 1 and 5. Please bear with us. It does improve after a couple episodes. I appreciate you giving us a listen, and please enjoy the X-Files theater that we here at Magus Media Productions have created for you.
This is not happening. This is not happening. This is not happening.
Hello and welcome to This Is Not Happening, another X-Files podcast.
Major Mulder, I'm Dana Scully. I've been assigned to work with you.
Oh, isn't it nice to be suddenly so highly regarded? So who did you take off to get stuck with this detail, Scully?
Actually, I'm looking forward to working with you. I've heard a lot about you.
Oh, really? I was under the impression that you were sent to spy on me.
Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm your host, Mike, and with me is Andrew. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Mike. Doing well.
Yeah, we're doing the X-Files finally. We're going to be tackling the pilot episode.
Or as we say here in Canada, the pilot.
The pilot.
We don't actually say
Very
that,
nice.
but I like to think that we could.
So how does this one strike you initially?
Solid. I mean, it was such a game changer in 93. I remember seeing that and going, this is totally different than anything else that's out there right now, and I want more.
With shows like Star Trek and movies like Alien, there's a lot more action happening. This one was a little bit more story focused. It was welcome television for sure.
And real too. Like the thing with Star Trek is it's totally beyond anything that is in our everyday experience. Whereas, these are people we can kind of relate to. I mean, we're not FBI agents.
Exactly.
Unless you're an FBI agent, in which case you look at it and go, oh, it's my job on screen. But, we could ideally see these people and go, I can identify with their day-to-day. I could believe them.
For sure. And we get two very, very focused characters. And I think Mulder and Scully just immediately mesh. And it just makes for compelling television.
I think what's also really interesting about this is, of course, they didn't know that there were going to be, 11 seasons of this show. They didn't think it was going to be. I think they probably thought, well, it's a nice paycheck for now. Let's hope this show goes somewhere. But they really made those characters so real, even in the pilot. And they kind of created some tropes that last through the entire show. So they're very faithful to them and just good actors that find that good business.
Well, yeah, it sets the stage pretty well for what the show's going to have. The tropes, like Andrew was saying, is that you're going to have your cliffhangers. You're going to have unanswered questions, and I think that's part of the fun of the X-Files is that not everything gets an answer, not everything is in your face or handed to you. You kind of have to think about it a little bit more, even after the episode's over, and it's something that the series carries with it through its entirety, and I think it's set up perfectly in this first episode. We're left with questions, that we'll get into, but
they do, and often they do this. They give you, the viewer, that information that the characters do not have. We learn, and I don't think I'm spoiling it for anyone, that at the end we see the bits, the evidence being put away in lockers in the Pentagon. Whereas, Mulder won't learn about this until many seasons later. But, it's that little touch the viewer gets, and we get to go, oh, look at that, what they did there, whereas our heroes will never get to see that.
So moving on into the episode proper, we are treated to a little text. The theme song has not been written yet at this point. The following story is made up loosely stitched together stuff to make a cool show.
Yeah.
Something they had to put together to make it a little bit more real for the viewer. It's cool, if not a little campy, but I like it.
Yeah, I mean, the following story inspired by actual documented accounts. I mean, that's another way of saying inspired by true events, right? But I love the idea that it was pretty de rigueur at the time to say things like that. But of course, they're talking about alien abduction stories, and it's interesting. Like the background information on this episode says that reality TV was really starting to get kind of big, so that they threw this in there to kind of try and latch on to that fever. And I don't know whether that was really absolutely necessary, but it certainly, probably appealed to a certain audience.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be people who latch on to, oh, this has got some truth to it, so let's see what this is about.
Was it really inspired by true accounts? My goodness.
Who did this happen to? It legitimized all those stories, those legends that we've heard, and put it into like a down-to-earth TV show. And no pun intended there, but I mean, again, like we've just talked about, just it made it a little bit more real for the viewer.
I know you want to dive into the episode. I just want to say that I think that Carter had a really great device here for telling really interesting stories with the pair of adventuresome FBI agents that are going to investigate our mysteries. And whether it's the mythology arc that's going to dominate the whole series, or whether it's Monsters of the Week, he's given us a really great platform to tell these interesting stories.
For sure.
But in so many cases, they don't have the access, which is the irony, right? Like you'd think that their badges would let them have all this power, but it's so often not the case.
All right.
Which it brings us right to, our characters in the pilot, where you'd think that they're FBI, they can really throw their weight around, but they get such resistance, from everybody that they meet. It's like, oh no, not here. You're not going to exhume that body, even though they do, But
yeah.
when guns get waved around, they back down.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so you want to lead us into this, Mike?
It opens with nighttime in a forest and some awesome lighting. I really like this shot. This woman is running through the forest. She doesn't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on. One of the shots, you see those red eyes in the back. Yeah, an immediate red herring just to freak us out. And I think that was so cool. But the lighting in this shot is just so good.
Well, they love the backlit forest, right? I'm sure I've seen that in at least 2 or 3 other episodes. So they got the lights shooting behind the trees, and is that the alien spaceship in the background? But they spent so much time working on that swirling leaf effect, which was a combination of practical and a little bit of CGI. And of course, in '93, CGI is a big deal. So it just speaks to how much faith Fox had in the show, that they were like, "Oh, you want to blow some money on a leaf effect? Yes. How much? It's $25,000 worth of computer leaves. I can get behind that." But yeah, we've got the totally generic forest setting, which they're going to go back to many, many times. And we've got the impressive light show.
It is quite the introduction, and I like that once the screen fades to white, you get that immediate cut to her dead body. Something happened. We're not quite sure what's going on. I think with Chris Carter's writing, it really kind of ramps up the fear when the investigator names the victim immediately, and the other guy's like, "It's happening again, isn't it?"
Oh, what a great line.
I know. It's like, what's happening? This is crazy. Like, you get chills listening to it. It's really fun. It's
a perfect introduction. I'm sure even if they showed these first 10 minutes to the Fox execs, there would be one guy who's like, what's happening again? I want more.
And then we move from there to Gillian Anderson as Dana Scully for the very first time.
So bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Yeah, everything's quite good right now. She's walking through the halls of the FBI, summoned by Section Chief Blevins.
And the third man, as he's credited.
The third man.
I don't know if he has an official X-Files name, like the well-manicured man and the fat man and, those kind of things. I think he just gets to be called senior agent or the third man. But that chemistry between him and Dana in that moment is just so good. Like she says, he's known by this nickname in the academy. They called him Spooky Mulder, so he's trying to make a joke. But the reaction that William B. Davis gives to that line, and she like curdles back at that, like, this is a bad man.
He's got no emotion. This guy's just like, ugh.
Yeah, they set him up so well. I mean, it's no surprise that they go back to the well to use him, because he's so good.
It's perfect because they give him camera time more so than I would say the other guys in the room. And, well, maybe not more, but his presence outdoes the other two.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, what is this guy about? What's happening here?
What I understand from William B. Davis is that he actually didn't smoke. Well, I think he used to, and then he quit. And so they were like, "Do you want some clove cigarettes for this?" And he's like, "No, I'm going to get in character. Give me some cigarettes. I'll do it." And it's you can almost see it in the way that he smokes. That he's not one of them long practice smokers who's got the rhythms down. Like he holds those cigarettes in a really not awkward way, but it's very specific way.
Combine it with that stare, and it's menacing. So then Dana's tasked to spy on Mulder, essentially. To his understanding, that is her goal. So he doesn't quite trust her yet.
Mm-hmm.
So when we cut to Mulder's office, he is prime Mulder. And I view it more as like he's testing everything she says and does.
Absolutely.
And he's not dismissive of her, but he goes from 0 to 60 real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of lays on some weird theories immediately. Is it constructed well? Do you like the diving right into the case thing? Or do you think there needed to be some more introduction?
I like the scene. I mean, I think that there's a lot going on there with Mulder's line saying, "Isn't it nice to be suddenly so highly regarded?" And that sort of prompts in me the question, well, what did he discover or do which has provoked this action? And I think because, like, later on we find that there's been some cover-up action with Dr. Nemen, and he is able to sort of piece together these bits and pieces of these other cases to bring them together and then prompt the investigation to go to Oregon. I think that is definitely enough that Blevins has gotten the word from above. You got to put somebody on Mulder because we're not sure, we like where this is going. But it's done in a really bureaucratic way. You got to imagine that they could have just said, you know what, you're going to go down to Alaska and investigate an organized crime ring right then and there. But no, they're letting this tease out for the sake of the show. Obviously, they kind of want to do this. But I think that is interesting that we have this idea that, okay, he knows he's onto something because Scully is now being paired with him. But of course, what nobody knows is that Scully isn't going to be this instrument of his undoing. She's actually going to be the person that she needs to be, which is the check on his unbridled enthusiasm. The other thing I find in this particular scene is that it's the first time we see Mulder's superpower, which is for him to completely tell us what the entire plot of the episode is going to be. Because he lays it out. He's like, it's alien abduction, and these marks here are probes, and there are being tests done on these people. So we're going to go to Oregon and stitch this all together.
What I find fantastic is any notion that there are answers beyond the realm of science. The answers are there. You just have to know where to look.
That's why they put the I in FBI.
Yeah, he's very, very good at predicting exactly what's happening.
Well, Mike,
another X-Files trope.
I hate to break it to you, Mike, but he's written that way.
That's true. That's true.
Future homework is to figure out how much what miss rate have they given him? When does he ever not call it? I mean, I know we got that one episode with the cockroaches where he's constantly calling Scully for answers, and she says, "No, it's got to be this," right? And he's like, "Oh, I guess you're right," but I think that's different. Somehow.
That's her one episode.
Yeah.
Of being right. So we move from Mulder's office directly to the plane ride to Oregon. This scene, I think, is nice and short. It does what it needs to do. It adds a little bit of creep factor and all.
That's a deleted scene. They didn't want to show where he kicks out two kids that were arguing next to him. He said, "You guys go sit in the back there." Here. Or maybe they're up at maybe there's a family that got led up to see how the pilots fly the plane in the cockpit, because this is pre 9/11, so you're able to go up there and get the tour.
Yeah, you were able to walk up there.
Yeah. But it's been 10 minutes and there hasn't been any real action. And this is a show on Fox. So no doubt somebody sent a note somewhere saying, we need to have a little action. So can we do something?
Something needs to happen here.
That's right. So, of course, plane almost goes down. That's our action scene.
Right. So we get a bit of David Duchovny's dry humor for the first time as he explains the case history. After, of course, I'm talking in the car.
Yeah.
She's impressed that he's so thorough, and he's impressed she did her homework.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of like a back and forth of them testing each other here. It's nice little character building because they're just talking, and it's really relatable in that sense, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that they have a nice banter between them. Again, you got to imagine this is probably one of the first times they're working together. Like they've probably done some table reads and they've done some prep work to get to this point, but they haven't gone 5 seasons.
Oh, sure.
You know, they haven't developed that rapport. So this is them getting to get to that place real quick.
Yeah. I think that just adds to that chemistry that the fans kind of latched on to.
Oh, yeah.
It's immediate with these two.
A testament to the writing, testament to the directing too. I don't think we've called out Robert Mandel, the director, on this one yet. And this is, of course, the only show he's ever going to do for this series too. So,
Yeah.
you know, there are a lot of good moving pieces that have been put into the right order that have just, you know, created what I think is a really great pilot. So, getting to this place is been quite the trial, but it's working.
So during their conversation, there's some static, some white noise happening. Stations are changing in the car. Sudden suspense, sudden tension.
Yep.
And then Mulder does something fucking nuts. He stops the car without a word, gets out, opens his trunk, gets a bottle of spray paint.
That comes standard with the rental, you know.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, he totally packed that. And then he sprays an X on the pavement where they were just driving without a word.
Yep.
And he looks up to the sky like, oh man, we just experienced something. And Scully is just staring at him like, what the fuck?
And his retort is
blows
great.
her off. He's like, oh, you know, nothing.
Probably nothing.
Probably nothing. And at this point, she's got to be thinking, I am putting in for my transfer papers when we get back.
More than that, though, I think she does see that there's method. You know, it's not like he doesn't freak out. You know, I think what she wants is explanation, but he knows that she's not ready for it. You know, laying out the entire thing yet. They're not there.
It's just such a cool scene. It's short. And again, I think my favorite part of it is that there is no dialogue because it gives us, the audience, that insight into Mulder that we have not had yet.
Oh, yeah.
It is the first episode, but without a word, we're seeing who this man is and what this stuff means to him. He is dedicated to this stuff so far. And when he does this, it's like, whoa.
Well, it's more interesting. It's more interesting to tease out the details, you know, rather than have him explain why he's doing it, which they could have done. You know, some Fox executive could have said, nobody's going to understand why he's doing this, and we need him to explain it. And I think it really speaks, it's, you know, to their credit that they don't do that.
Yeah. Such a good scene.
So we're pulling up to the small town of White Rock, BC. I mean, Belle Fleur, Oregon.
It's Oregon.
Oh, I'm sorry. Remember, dear listeners, I'm from Canada, where we don't know anything about the States.
Yeah, so right when they start the scene, Dr. Nemen, the doctor who did the autopsies on the other victims, he rolls up and he is not happy. He doesn't like the fact that the FBI is digging their closet. They think he's doing a bad job. This is all in his head. You know, no one's actually said that. But we also learn here that Soames died of exposure on a relatively warm night.
Oh, it's
which I think is kind of it's kind of proving that he does not or did not do a good job.
I think it's more than that, though. I don't think he's just showing up going, "What are you doing? You're going to ruin my career." I think that he's actively, well, of course, he's actively fudging these reports. So somebody over top of him is saying, "You're going to write this up like this," and you know, when they come up to dig up the truth, he's thinking, that guy who smoked all the cigarettes isn't going to be happy with me. My life might be on the line, right?
Exactly. So yeah, I think they set that up pretty well, and it sheds more light without actually coming out and saying it and saying, okay, something's going on here.
Well, interesting too that he only pulls away when Teresa, the daughter, pleads with him that, like, let's just go home. And I thought that was an interesting choice because, you know, when you're that strong emotionally, when you're really going to give it to somebody, like, what are you doing here? And that gets diffused by somebody else, you know, there's a bigger story there, right? And I like that, again, they're just teasing at the details, but not over explaining it. No, honey, I got to stay here and see this through. No, he actually, you know, is able to get pulled away and let the scene continue. It is good. And now the lift operator there, which he's going to get fired.
He's going to get fired.
Yeah.
The inevitable strap break.
Yeah, classic, but worth it for getting us right to the action again, right? We would be at 19 minutes and we need another action scene. So
And what do we get? We get a broken open casket, and what comes out? Not something that looks human.
not
You
real
know,
sounds, yeah.
Yeah, Ray Soames did not make the b-ball team,
Some of
as
those
Mulder
jokes.
put it. Yeah, and I think for an early '90s TV show, I think the corpse looks genuinely gross. It's not great, not terrible. It's kind of right in that wheelhouse of pretty good.
What I also like is the reaction too, right? Like it's not
Oh
just
yeah,
the smell of that corpse is so strong
yeah,
that you as the viewer can smell it based on the reaction. It's just, that's very powerful work.
yeah. And then Mulder's excitement in the autopsy is just,
Our first autopsy.
yep, the first autopsy. They're both there for it. If it's not human, what is it?
Yeah.
He's so happy, like he's like onto something, and it's got to mean something to especially people who have these stories that this show is based off of. You know, I think he portrays that enthusiasm that anyone would.
Oh yeah. Well, I think he sees it as the thin edge of the wedge, right? Like this is my smoking gun right here. I'm gonna crack this case wide open because I finally found something I can work with.
Yeah,
Because that's his whole thing, right? He's looking for validity. He's looking for credibility, and he's hasn't got it because he's in a basement office of the FBI. I'm willing to go out on a limb and say that it is Ray Soames because remember later on they go to great lengths to destroy the body.
for sure.
If it was just an orangutan, if it was an obvious bait and switch, then I think they could have explained it away saying this is some horrible prank. But the fact that they the powers that be, the great conspiracy around them is able to get in there and destroy that evidence suggests that this is him, and this is what happens when you decompose as an abduction victim.
Right. And the fact that they went to those lengths kind of, as you're saying, points to the fact that it is him. So I think that's a good pull.
I think the orangutan is an interesting choice plot wise. I mean, I think it allows them to sort of view it, the characters, Mulder and Scully, to view it as a prank, as one of the logical explanations. But I think they could have done a couple other things as well that would have made it a bit less explainable.
Yeah. So as they're wrapping up the scene in the autopsy, Mulder takes a moment and stops down. He just says, "Look, I'm not crazy. I have the same doubts you have. And I know," it's like his way of saying, "I know I've been kind of excited right now and doing some crazy shit, but I'm not insane. I'm still an investigator. I'm still at the FBI. So you can trust that I'm of sound mind to be saying the things I'm saying."
Well, he needs her on his side because she's the medical expert. So he needs to say whatever he needs to say that will get her on board to do the work that he needs her to do. So there is a little bit of, I think, him pleading in that semi manipulative way, like I kind of need you to know that I'm on the same place as you because I'm going to get something from you. But also I think that they have shared some time together, and he is looking to bond. It's like I can't take this journey alone. I think he's finally found somebody that he can respect, and this is where they're going to go together.
Next scene, we're in the hotel. First Scully note-taking of the series.
It's the world's oldest laptop right there.
That is an old laptop.
Yeah, it is. And I like the camera angle that they use there with the X-ray that they've got with the red circle around it. Like that little bit of visual information tells us everything we know as the audience to put the pieces together. It's like, this is the problem. This does not belong. This is the mystery right here.
And then we move from there to the psych hospital, and we are introduced to one Billy Miles and Peggy Odell. This is interesting because Billy is in a coma, and he's staring off into no man's land. Peggy is reading to him. They are apparently close. And Mulder and Scully are there for information. They want to see what people here know. And because they're of the same class of the people who have been killed so far, they're interested in the phenomena. And as soon as they ask a question, Peggy gets a nosebleed and starts freaking out. Mulder, being Mulder and always looking for evidence, lifts up the back of her shirt to find those 2 marks. Oddly inappropriate move, honestly, but I think Scully is disturbed by the fact that she's got the marks, and they argue on their way back to the car. She's like, "How did you know? How did you know that she would have those marks?" You don't want to know.
Yeah.
Because he's still part of him still thinks that she's there to spy. He doesn't completely trust her, obviously. No one would at this point.
And I like that they don't come immediately to a place of trust. This is the great part of the show, is the tension between these 2 characters, and they're going to play with that throughout the entire series. At some point, it's going to get ramped up, but when they have sparks flying between them, that's some of their best work.
Absolutely, and to counter what he did in the autopsy, she shows her colors here. She shows him that she's there to find the truth, not to do someone else's bidding.
Yeah, absolutely. Which means, of course, we have to go to the forest.
We have to go to the forest, and at night.
More amazing lighting work. It's actually tricky to light night scenes, and this is a hallmark of the X-Files, is that they develop some really amazing techniques for doing that.
Really nice backlighting. And Mark Snow, we haven't said anything about him yet. He shows off a bit with his music here.
Yeah.
I love that droning synth. Oh, man. So good. Scully pockets some of what looks like dirt, but is definitely not dirt.
Mike, that is space dirt.
Space dirt. Okay, Thank you. Oh, I see it in the notes here.
Yeah. From the alien smoker.
And this whole scene kind of calls back to that intro scene. Scully's kind of disturbed by a noise. She goes to check it out, and we get that really brilliant backlighting over the hill. Looks just like the intro. And who shows up?
I just gotta call out at this point. She's like, "Mulder, is that you?" It's like, what? He went out and found a caning machine out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, Scully, I'm riding the mechanical bull over here. Sorry, I should have told you.
Yeah, he went out and found a few floodlights.
That is a very poorly tuned truck to be making that noise, though. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know what he's got going on there, but man, it is loud.
So she's walking around with her department-issued Walther PPK.
And he is threatening them with a shotgun on his shoulder.
That's the world's most awkward pose.
Well, I think it's like the kind of the balls of this guy to be given the FBI this much trouble and to be literally propping himself with a shotgun. Like if you don't leave, I'm gonna kill you. Do you think that's a little extreme, or do you think it's in keeping?
I think that, yeah, I find this, well, okay, first of all, this is a callback to what we were talking about with the idea that they're FBI agents, right? That they should have the superpower of, well, we can be anywhere because we've got these credentials. But at the end of the day, he's probably right. You're trespassing. You don't have any reasonable cause to be here. I'm the law around here, and I'm saying you go away. And they back down because of it. So I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's a little too big balls for my taste. It's like, I feel like he probably
He's got no fear in the world.
Well, exactly. It's like they literally have guns pointed at each other. There could be some bodies dragged out of here at the end of this scene, but neither of them wanted to come to violence. Have they even met? Yeah, they've met at the cemetery.
At the cemetery.
I'm not sure he was there, actually. No.
You know what? He may not have been there now I think about it.
So, yeah, he's just some guy with a shotgun.
He's just some guy with a shotgun.
Yeah, I think he says he's the law, though. So they acquiesce. Yeah. But, I mean, it's pretty flimsy. Like, there's no showing of credentials. And as you say, he's backlit. So, but you know what? He'd be easy to shoot at. Nicely silhouetted like that.
So from here, we get to the car ride back to the hotel. And it is raining out. Torrential rain. She shows Mulder the dust she collected, the space dirt. Actually thinks could possibly be some sort of sacrifice, a cult. And we get an interruption, let's call it. The bright lights come up. The screen kind of freezes for a moment. There's been a paranormal event here. Mulder, right before, had just checked his watch. And he checks it immediately after, and 9 minutes have gone by. He freaks out. He is once again so happy. And it happened right on the spot he spray painted earlier.
Oh, that's enough to send Scully over the edge. It's a pretty
Oh, yeah.
brilliant set of coincidences that he can be like, and I knew it all was going to happen because I know how this plot's going to.
I'm Mulder.
Mulder. But I mean, come on, you got to think though. If you were to analyze this a little bit, you'd be like, did I just get probed by aliens? Like, what happened in those 9 minutes? Come on.
What do you?
Yeah.
I can't sit.
Am I gonna have nosebleeds now? What's going on?
This is freaking her out slowly. Like, she's scientifically skeptical, but slowly and slowly it's chipping away at her. All the things Mulder's ending up correct about. And then this lost time thing, she disregarded it in the moment. She said it's not possible. Time doesn't just disappear. But now in the hotel, she's by herself. She's about to take a shower. And she finds 2 bumps where the scars have been on all the victims on her back. And she loses it. We see her shaken up for the first time. And it's pretty intense. She does such a good job. Gillian Anderson is fantastic in this scene.
I gotta say, I mean, as much as 13-year-old me at the time was like, oh, she's taking off her clothes.
I see panties.
I mean, this has to be some exec at Fox saying, gentlemen, we've gone 22 minutes without skin. I hope you will write in a scene where she's going to have a bath or something, if you know what I mean. A little bit gratuitous, except for I like that Carter's able to tie it back to the bumps. Yeah,
I don't think it was offensive at all in the sense that it actually worked for the story. I think, it was so brilliantly written.
Yeah, I think he was like, okay, I'll give it your nudie shot, but I'm going to make it about the alien bumps. It's not going to be about her like turning on some light jazz and lighting some candles and about to get into a bath.
Although Mulder does have a candle.
He brings in the candle. But that's justifiable because the power has gone out because we are in Weirdsville.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just being a partner and helping her out. It's not a implied sexualism, in my opinion, at all.
Because as we all know, this is the absolute wrong time to make a sexual advance when your partner comes in freaked out that you might be having, alien probes on you. That is not the time to come on,
So what you do?
So you up? Worth noting, we have the crucifix showing there. She's wearing her crucifix necklace. We're gonna see a lot of that going forward, but a nice little nod that this is her faith is part of. Well, I guess it could be anything, right? But we do know later on that it's going to be a big deal.
It becomes a very significant piece, for sure. And from this, we move into the talk in the bedroom. Mulder kind of lays out who he is and why he's so determined. We get a really cool scene with them that it allows them to connect even more than we've already talked about. He talks about his sister and her suddenly disappearing one day.
Yep.
And even though the story he gives her is not quite what happens as they kind of alter it for future episodes, it's kind of haunting, pretty scary to hear someone talk so passionately and so without, in all seriousness. He's saying, my sister was abducted by aliens. I have been regressed. I've had hypnotism. These are memories I'm recalling from my subconscious. And she's enthralled. She's listening to this man's story, and he's just laying it all out there, which I don't think he's done with anyone before. He's got his colleagues that make fun of him because he's got some kooky theories, but he's never opened up like this to someone. And I think he's starting to trust this person because of her reliance on fact and finding the truth. Initially, I believe I've heard Chris Carter say, or someone say, that the show wasn't always going to be about aliens, but they wanted to definitely set up something that would keep it coming back. His sister being abducted is that stepping stone, this is a story that's going to be the driving factor for Mulder.
Yep.
Yeah, he could be looking for the poop monster from Host or something, but it all ties back to the supernatural event in his life that leads him to believe these things. And it makes him more human, and it makes him much less crazy.
What I like about this scene a lot is as you say, it is pivotal. I totally agree with you. This is where their relationship fundamentally begins because they've shared this big moment together. You thought you got probes. In fact, it's not. It's mosquito bites. Haha, we can all laugh. They could have just walked away from that. But, of course, the power is out. They can't just go back to work because there's no power. So they get to have this heart-to-heart. And this is, I got to imagine some time passed before Mulder got to say, this is kind of how it is for me. And they do have this great moment together. And it could have been just a big exposition dump, but for the fact that, again, they're both really good actors, and you are right there living it with them. And I agree, it's you know, it's not exactly the way it's played out in future episodes, but what I really like is that they don't do the recreation scene. You know, they don't flash us back as they do later on. In this point, it's not necessary because his performance is so good. You know what happened because you see it happening in his face.
And during his whole story, we get a shot of a man lurking about.
It is a nice counterpoint to the scene where we have this intimate heart-to-heart, and then we're like reminded, oh, wait a second, it's still scary out there. There are things, it's enough to get our viewers to sort of be prodded out of their seats a little bit.
And even as Mulder's talking about people blocking his attempts to get at answers in certain files, that kind of juxtaposition, if someone, or maybe not juxtaposition, but someone walking outside, lurking in the shadows, to me, that's kind of like representative of that. Like, hey, there's still stuff going on, and Mulder's talking about it right now. So
yeah, absolutely.
That scene always struck me as some guy waiting to torch the place.
But in fact, it may have been Teresa, and it may
have
about
been
to call them and tell them that Peggy Odell has just died.
Yeah.
Which they go off to take a look at, because, of course, that's the next piece in the puzzle. Which is interesting because it's Peggy Odell running out in front of a tractor trailer. Odd because we've only seen her in the wheelchair. Dun, dun, dun.
Yes.
And they never really go into that. They just like,
They don't.
Look at that. She was able to run the whole time. What a good faker.
What a good faker. But in classic X-Files fashion, it just asks more questions. But the key moment is that Scully notices that her watch stopped at the same time that they had the experience in the car. So what does that mean? Something.
Nothing.
It means something to nothing.
How much time has passed? Things move a little slower in Bellflower. They gotta go track down a good blanket.
No one's in a hurry for anything.
Yeah. On my repeat viewing here, in that, could the fact that she's able to run and she's been in the wheelchair, could that be a little setup that maybe it wasn't Billy Miles being the only villain here? Maybe it was also Peggy Odell was one of the people that was able to drag the other classmates to the forest for their abduction.
That's very possible, and I think it lends to the idea that the aliens can control, or these forces can control people without their knowledge.
Yeah.
They're using them as kind of vessels to do what they want. So from the car accident, we go back to the hotel, and Mulder and Scully rush back, and they see that it is on fire. They have lost everything.
The bad guys are covering their tracks.
So we're immediately getting kind of a taste of what Mulder's been talking about, at least in that scene with Scully in the hotel. People are actively blocking his progress. So this episode really is doing a good job of kind of slowly ramping everything up and giving us examples of what Mulder's talking about. So we as viewers know he's not insane.
I imagine a deleted scene where he is smoking in a chair and he drops a cigarette and he does whoops, and then he tries to stamp it out and a little fire starts and it creeps along and the curtains go up and then he holds his face. It's like, oh no. So I like the whole comic bit. I think would have been great, but they cut it.
Yeah.
So yeah, the bad guys covering their tracks, well done, and again puts a big underline under the idea that they may be FBI agents, but doesn't matter.
They're not above getting fucked with.
That could be too. It could just be a phone call saying, if you want your kids to live, you're gonna fix this. You're gonna hide all the evidence. You're gonna do what you should have done right the first time, essentially. So now we get to meet Teresa Nemeth, who approaches Mulder and Scully after they half-heartedly see that their evidence has gone up in smoke. And saying, you
not
need
a
to
good
protect
moment
me.
for them.
You need to protect me.
Yeah, and we get a short scene in a fast food joint. She's doing a stellar job at portraying a teenager feared for her life. There's a real shakiness to her voice that's pretty convincing.
Yeah.
She also confirms her dad knows things happened to her. The guy, the doctor at the graveyard that we met at the beginning of the episode.
Because we just said she's squealing, she gets a nosebleed, and we all know what happens when you get a nosebleed. You're bet to get hit by a tractor trailer.
That is coming out like a squeezed ketchup bottle.
Well, apparently there's a lot of background on that effect, because they asked somebody to make up, they gave them the problem. They said you need to have a on-demand nosebleed, and so the guy came up with a gel cap that would, you had a 15-second lead time. If you jammed it up the nose and then waited, it would guaranteed come out, but it was like too long and it wasn't completely reliable. So then they made a whole pump which goes over the head, and they used like 2 pounds of makeup to make it fit there. And when they first tested, apparently it blew up, and so it looked like she had she was shot in the head. So apparently it did not go as planned for a little while.
One hell of a nosebleed.
Yeah, exactly. So some trepidation when they actually started to put it to film. It's like, I hope this works, and it did. It worked really well. But they don't really linger on it, right? They're able to she gets her hands in front of her face pretty quick.
Yeah. But yeah, so who else comes in but her dad, urgently trying to get her out of there, away from the FBI agents, with Papa Miles. We find out he is the dad of Billy Miles and the same guy who threatened them in the forest.
Yeah, a nice little link there.
It's a great reveal, and it almost gives into Scully's idea that this could be a cult. I think they do a good job of still leaving those questions open. Everyone seems in on this, and that's a little concerning.
I would agree with that, except, of course, we as the viewers don't buy any of that, because we've seen swirling leaves and the UFO come down and all this stuff. It's like,
absolutely,
sure, but no. We know what it is.
So we're moving on to the graveyard. They rush out there. The graves are empty, and they are freaking out.
I like the lead into that, where Mulder's makes him wonder what else was in the other 2 graves. And I'm kind of surprised that they didn't exhume all the bodies at the same time, but they just decided to choose one. Oh, except that the machine broke. The strap broke. That meant
the strap broke.
We're not doing any more exhumations until
they only have one strap.
They have only one
cannot.
Strap. Yeah.
You got a special order that crap.
Yeah, Amazon hadn't been invented yet, so there's no same-day delivery. But yeah, they figure out that it must be Billy Miles. Again, Mulder pieces together the plot.
I made a note of it when I saw the body.
That's the reason the kids come to the forest, because the forest controls them and summons them there. And the marks are from some kind of test that's being done on them. And that maybe causes some kind of genetic mutation, which would explain the body that we dug up.
And the force summoned Teresa Nemon's body into the woods tonight.
Yes, but it was Billy Miles who took her there. Summoned by some alien impulse. That's it.
I mean, that scene is so great with the pounding rain, and they're just they go a little bit psychotic. They're laughing in the rain at this absurd question.
Yeah, she can't believe that she's actually believing or saying the things she's saying.
Yeah. So, of course, we got to go back and view Billy Miles and figure out.
Yep.
He's the guy, but how do we prove it?
Scully takes a moment to check his feet, and goddamn if they're not dirty with the same space dirt that she's found. She's convinced at this point.
Yeah, what I really like about this scene is this is the Scully parallel to Mulder's strange business when he's putting the X on the road. She's doing the strange business now that we actually have somebody saying, why is she doing that? The nurse is saying, what's she doing now? But it doesn't get explained, and it doesn't need to be explained, because
it doesn't.
We, the audience, know what she's doing, and anymore it would be gratuitous. It's perfect. And I like that Scully gets her moment to be the weirdo.
Yeah. The nurse does make an inappropriate joke about produce in the scene. She would be canceled immediately.
Yeah, but in 1993 it was really funny, and we all would have laughed.
It was hilarious. I was like, oh man. Yeah, a
But
little too
that's
much
her.
there.
That's her and her mom joke. She's playing a character.
Yeah.
I like though that she doesn't remember what she was doing. It doesn't remember what TV show she was watching. It's nice cover that this is wide reaching. That whatever happened in 903, she was probably eyes down in the middle of her crossword.
Just kind of a haze dropping over the town.
Yep.
And as Mulder and Scully are leaving, she is as jazzed up as we've ever seen. She's putting it together. Mulder's theory is coming together. But it's kind of funny that Mulder has to remind her that while he's okay with sounding like a crazy man, she's the one who has to write it and put it in her notes and submit it to the people who tasked her to spy on him.
I do like that callback.
It's really
yeah,
nice.
Yeah, you have to be able to sign off on it, and if you can't, then what are we doing here?
Yep. So they talk it out, and they're going to go back to the forest and make sure it's the same substance.
They need more space dirt.
More space dirt, can't have enough.
Because apparently the other stuff burned up in the fire.
So we're back in the forest.
Third time lucky in the forest.
Third time, man. And Billy's dad does nothing less than assault an FBI agent with his gun.
Yeah, you got to imagine there's some
knocks her
repercussions
out.
for that.
You would imagine. But we don't go into that. That's not what the episode's about. But so he assaults Scully physically, and he aims his shotgun at Mulder like there's nothing wrong. He forces him to the ground.
I told you to stay out of this. I mean, it's like get in your car, turn around, and go home. No, I'm gonna lay down some shotgun justice on your head. She's got to have some serious concussions, as a result of all the whacks on the head she gets.
She probably looks like she's been playing NFL football for years.
All right, so we figured it all out. It's Billy, and Billy's gonna he's gonna kill again. So there's this confrontation, but Detective Miles, nope, doesn't matter. It's my boy. We're gonna see this through. I wonder if maybe he's been told, you play ball and you'll get your son back.
It's very possible because I don't know why anyone would go through the lengths that he's going through to cover this up while innocent people are getting taken and hurt and killed.
He's definitely the bad guy, like the obvious bad guy.
He's got to be a bad guy. Like, of anyone, he's the guy protecting this whole thing. So he's on the take in some way. So I think you might be onto something where the shadow government on behalf of the aliens is like, okay, your son's going to be a part of this, but as long as you play ball and keep people doing this, keep us getting our victims, we'll give them back to you at some point.
I like that they had that, though, because it does give Detective Miles some depth other than just being the obvious bad guy. It's like you can tell he's conflicted about what's going on and that he is gonna end this in order to save Teresa Nemeth by shooting Billy. Although, I mean, the aliens are here. Like, something bad is going to happen, and Billy being dead is probably not going to solve any of that. But I like that he makes the effort. He makes a decision.
He does have a little bit of worry in his eyes and his voice. He's yelling for his son, and then when it's all over and the aliens have taken Teresa Nemeth, Billy's marks are gone. His dad is super excited that his son is now talking again and lucid. He's happy. He's not the evil man we kind of portrayed him to be a few minutes ago, but we see him thankful that things are over, or they seem to be over.
Yeah, and again, they don't dwell on that too much, and they really can't afford to, because I think if they did, it would tease out a lot of problems. Like, do you know what you just done to make this happen? I mean, if anybody goes away, like they do talk about that a little bit later when Blevins and the third man are debriefing Scully, saying there's no way to prosecute this. It's like, oh no, there are a few crimes we could prosecute. There's a few assaults on federal officers, obstruction charges. We got something we could do here if you really wanted to, but no, not going to do that.
So we go from the forest to the interview with Billy Miles. He's being hypnotized. Mark Snow did a really good job adding the creep back into this episode.
Oh, it's such a good. Yeah, it's not overbearing, which is part of its strength, right? It supports the scene and it doesn't draw attention to itself, but it's there doing its job, kind of like the actors. Yeah. They're not given I shouldn't say that. They are given some pretty amazing bits of dialogue, but it's done sparingly and to great effect. It's not, we don't need to be hit over the head with exposition with every breath. And whenever they are on screen, they are really loyal to the characters they're portraying. It's part of the reason that show has been so successful. The story's great, but other actors, other music, I think it would come across really schlocky.
Mm-hmm. As Billy's recounting the last thing he remembers, there was a forest party. He was told after the intervention of the aliens, he was told to gather the others for testing. Altogether, it's a very short scene. We do get a shot in the background of Heinz Verber, the actual doctor who regressed Mulder, and we do not see him again, I don't believe, until season 5.
Yep.
So they're actually tapping the same actor. It's just amazing how much thought they put into this stuff. So in the later seasons, he shows up again.
Well, and remember
really cool.
that the local casting would have been in BC in seasons 1 through 4. And so they get to season 5 and like, you know what, we should really bring back that regression doctor for, a plot point. So they would have, unless the actor who played him lived in LA and came out to BC for the shoot, they would have had to go back to him and say, we need you for this. But of course, by then, they had more money to play with. They would be able to cast anybody. Get Jim Carrey to come down and play the doctor if they wanted to.
Not quite the same feel as the original guy, but...
Everyone get your Jim Carrey impressions out.
But yeah, we go straight into Scully's debrief.
And I love how it's so circular. Like, we start with Blevins and the Third Man talking to Scully, and they end with Blevins and Third Man debriefing Scully. And the only thing that's changed is Scully. Like, she has now come full circle, but she's grown. She's going to say, yep, you're all right, except for this thing. And she brings out the alien transmitter.
They're very upset with the direction she chose to go, because it was a decision, be a decent human being or be a pawn, and she is not the latter. Blevins, he's angry, but he doesn't hit her too hard, I don't think. He thinks the story is wholly unbelievable, and they are more focused with how you prosecute this stuff, like you said earlier, Andrew. And yeah, she just kind of brandishes that nose implant and's like, you know what? Here's your evidence. Mulder's onto something.
Yeah.
And they're not too happy about it.
I like that. I do like that Blevins and the Third Man use the system against her. Like, to say that this is all very good, and well, that you have this unexplained, obvious phenomenon happening out there. But what are we actually going to do about it? More to the point, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah, why is Mulder wasting our time and resources on this? Scully passes CSM on her way out, and the creepy music comes back. He wasn't late to the meeting, but now they're going to have like some sort of secret, what do we do about this kind of meeting?
I think that
really cool.
Yeah, I think in a future episode, we know that he's bugging the offices, right? So he was probably listening in and go, oh, she had an alien transmitter. Well, I'll just wander down and retrieve that.
Right.
Thanks for that. I'll just put it somewhere special.
Thanks for that. So in Scully's apartment, she's just laying, and it's night. She's laying in bed. She's watching her alarm clock. Now, I kind of got the sense that she's waiting, or part of her is waiting for something to happen. She wants to make sure that the clock is actually moving.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought of that. That's good.
I just got that sense, the way she's looking at it, like...
It would have been better, of course, if it was... It would have been better if it was 9:03, right?
Right.
Just
wait for that 9:04.
And then it turns 9:04 and she hasn't had a fade to white. Yeah, that would have been much better. But apparently, is it 11:42? That's a birthday, I think. Yes, 11/21 to 22. Chris Carter's wife, Dory Pearson, born on 11/21/48. So thank you, Easter eggs. They knew they were going to get somewhere with this. So, of course, we can't go without talking about the big denouement with cigarette-smoking man in the filing area.
Oh, no. We get a very Raiders of the Lost Ark scene with CSM. It was amazing. I was like, oh, man, here we go. And really, all he's doing, he's in a warehouse. He pops it into a little plastic container, and he walks out. And I think the greatest reveal is when he closes the door and locks it, and it's got that Pentagon thing. It's like,
Yeah.
holy shit.
Know your exits. I like that it's so mundane, right? As opposed to restricted access, do not enter.
Yeah.
It's more
Yeah,
like,
it's just like,
yeah, you are here.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's definitely the writer telling us that, oh, the government is complicit in this. Mulder is totally right. You followed along with us this long, and we're going to give you this little reward to tell you that, yes, everything that Mulder said is true. And if you follow along for the next 9 or 10 seasons, you'll find out why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the episode. What are your final thoughts? Let's just dive right in.
Oh, it's practically a movie. I mean, it's
Oh, yeah.
super good quality. I mean, I don't think it's perfect. I may be a little bit. How dare I? You're off the podcast.
Dare you?
But I think it's really, really, really good, and especially for the time. Like, as I think we've gushed before, there was just nothing else like it at the time. Like the only other sort of show that was out there doing this kind of sci-fi is Quantum Leap, or Star Trek: Next Generation. Both huge shows, but they were fantastical. Whereas this one, there's fantasy for sure, but there's fantasy you can be like, oh, I could see this happening, and it tapped into that whole conspiracy theory, mentality that was just ready to be tapped.
Yes, I think the paranormal nature, that the UFO sightings and things, that was prime material to be tapped. We had been dealing with it since the 50s at that point, but I think the abduction stories were part of like this outside the mainstream storytelling of the population. Like there are a lot of stories out there, but this show comes along and kind of legitimizes it in a weird way.
Yeah. Inspired
did such
to
a
be
good
sure.
job.
I mean, I think Chris Carter, he really has an amazing imagination to be able to pull all these bits and pieces together and really give it a. And of course, Fox obviously was head over heels with it, and one of the more successful shows for them at the time.
One of the longest running sci-fi shows. So yeah, that's the pilot, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, I enjoyed it. Should we watch it again?
Yeah. All right, for Andrew and myself, Mike, thank you all for listening. We will see you next time. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked what you heard, please rate and review on your podcast app of choice. Andrew and I would be eternally grateful to you fine people for helping us expand and get the word out. Also, we've got a killer group on Facebook. Feel free to join in on the discussion at facebook.com/groups/thisisnothappeningpod and become an official member of the syndicate. We do polls and we have questions for every episode to give you guys the opportunity to chime in and possibly let your voice be heard on our recordings. And please join us on our new Twitter at tinhxfilespod, no dash, to stay up to date on everything, moment to moment. Thank you, and remember, don't stop swimming. It's that time, everyone, the Magus Media Production sales pitch. Please check out our homepage at magusmediaproductions.net so you can stay up to date on all of our shows. Check out our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/magusmediaproductions, both of which have our Discord link on it, where you can join us for live shows as we record them for future release. At Magus Media Prods on X, our Patreon, patreon.com/magusmedia, where a $5 donation will help us keep the lights on and bringing you new content, and you get some stickers. Thank you for your consideration and support.